Hi, guys. So you all know that I've been for a very, very long time now, months and months, pushing the idea that Democrats need to have a daily press briefing on par with the White House briefing, not do a podcast or go around the country. A lot of people have thrown in extra ideas that are all good ideas, but for the purpose of this discussion, we need the daily briefing. And it hasn't happened. And we've talked a lot about maybe why it's not happening. I suspect it's egos. Chuck Schumer, maybe Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know. It would, in fact, have to be done under the auspices of Congress, as I've said before, in the Capitol building, in the same room all the time. I've already, if you look at if you go to Twitter, look at my pinned tweet, you can see, or Blue Sky, you can see where I lay out. And I actually wrote a piece for Day Magazine, how it would be paid for. Pete Buttigieg is the best person and the right person for the role. Yes, you can bring in other people. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But it has to be on par with the White House press briefing to make it to all the newscasts and meet the deadlines. It would be fact checking. It would be putting forth ideas. It would not be a rundown necessarily in what the House and Senate Democratic leadership have planned, although that could be a part of it. And you can bring people in. You pay for it through the steering policy committees and maybe, each congressional office, Democratic congressional office or committee, leadership offices can kick in, they could be assessed, and you give them a staff. You get a room through the policy committee, the steering policy committee, or a senator could give up their hideaway in the basement of the Capitol. The press that is based in the Capitol, they're right there. That's the whole idea. The press you need are right there in the House and Senate press galleries. This would be their beat. Okay, so I've made that point a number of times. It's not happening. It's just not happening. So clearly, there are people who are either not good enough at this, not the right people for this particular moment in time to be leading the party because they're standing in the way, or it's their ego. But there's something very, very wrong here. We've now reached the 100-day mark of Trump. And of course, since the election, it's even longer. There's something really, really wrong. Is it a couple of staff people who say, no, we don't want to do that, or their egos, or if it's not our idea, we're not going to do it? I don't know what the issue is. I just know it's not happening. And literally everybody says, yes, this is a great idea. And the people who have worked on the Hill in senior positions, such as myself, know that this is something that could be started up and running in a matter of days. You can get enough of the details tamped down where you could have this briefing starting next Monday. Okay? It could be done. And I know it because I know how these things are set up. And in fact, I've set up many of these types of things. But here's the other thing. The new Democratic National Committee Chairman, Ken Martin, came up with something that seemed close. He said, we will be putting together basically kind of a shadow cabinet, the people's cabinet. And that was a good idea. I don't think it was quite as strong as my idea. I think the two go hand in hand. You would have that shadow cabinet, have the different members of the shadow cabinet of these experts, activists come in to conduct part of the briefings. And White Houses do that as well. If it's something that's a deep dive into foreign policy, they might bring the State Department spokesperson into the White House briefing room. And of course, each of the agencies have their own briefing rooms. So it was a good idea and worth doing. I would say not instead of the daily briefing, but in addition to round it out. It's like, okay, great. The new chairman, Ken Martin, he gets it. He gets it. Now, he didn't lay out details and he said there's more coming. Well, it's been a while. And that's why I'm doing this video. Remember yesterday I said we can't be in denial. We can't lie to ourselves about what our side did to let happen what's happened to our country. Now, we didn't do it. Yes, Mitch McConnell, yes, Republicans did it. But Democrats dropped the ball. Merrick Garland, and then not impeaching Trump after obstruction of justice in the Mueller report. Please don't come at me and say, well, we impeached him 2 other times. It didn't happen. Again, I'm talking about the timing, doing it early on. I think that there was a good chance we would have gotten conviction. One thing that would not have happened is Trump would not have thought, okay, Democrats, we can just roll over them. Nancy Pelosi blinked. That wouldn't have happened. So I don't really want to hear people say, well, it's not going to work anyway, because you don't know till you try. And if you think that there's supposed to be a guaranteed win without even trying, then it's clear you haven't worked in politics. And what I would tell Ken Martin, because I think that he probably goes along with the idea of a daily briefing, but he doesn't have that kind of authority. And if Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries don't do it, don't allow it, don't facilitate it, don't put together this plan, because again, you bring me in, give me a couple people to work with, I could have this up and running in days. So there's no excuse, and we've not seen any reasons given why this hasn't happened. But for Ken Martin to say we're going to be doing this shadow cabinet, and here we don't have it yet, he's not new anymore. I was willing to give him some time, but the fact that it's not happening tells me that either something or somebody is standing in the way, or he doesn't have the proper staff structure. Again, there's something wrong. There is something wrong with how the Democrats are responding or not responding to Trump and MAGA and the fascism. I'm not trying to be negative, but if we don't fight now, my God, what is all of this about? It is almost as if Democrats are rolling over, or they're only going to do something if it doesn't hurt certain egos, if the 2028 presidential hopefuls, aren't too threatened by somebody else like a Pete Buttigieg getting behind the lectern every day. Perhaps Ken Martin can't get this idea off the ground because maybe other people with ambitions or some other agenda or egos are in a roundabout way then going around and making sure that it doesn't happen. Maybe he's getting pushback from state party leaders. I don't know. It's possible that it's a good idea, but he doesn't have anybody on staff that knows how to implement it. And here's the thing. If you don't know how, then you shouldn't be working at the DNC. Because here's the thing. For those of us who have actually run campaigns, let me tell you something about running a congressional campaign. You are starting a business very quickly in a very organized and systematic way. You do a few things really, really well. You don't worry about all the details from the get-go, but you have a strategy and a plan. And you have people who are smart enough to know what has to happen first so that you can get from point A to point B and get this thing off the ground. You literally, with a campaign, are starting a business that is supposed to peak, raise the money, spend the money. You don't just spend it when you get it and do it willy-nilly. There is a calendar to this and a plan. Your fundraising operation is woven in. All the gears work together with your comms, your communications, and everything else you got going, even your schedule. And this business that you are creating very quickly in a campaign, literally, I remember packing up my Mustang hatchback and driving halfway across the country to Iowa to run a congressional campaign, the primary. And we had to have that thing up and running in a matter of days. Then, heading out to Maryland, to the Eastern Shore, no headquarters, no stationery, no phone number, nothing. And I had to get that thing up and running in a matter of days. And I did. And then we got a very small staff and we put together a schedule that made sense, that was part of the strategy. So there is a way to do this. And I'm just giving you the brief description of what it's like to do that, because anybody who's run a congressional campaign and knows what they're doing has done it. And if Ken Martin does not have people like that at the DNC who know how to do this, his good idea is turning into a negative for him because it hasn't happened yet. Okay? It's not even something that really takes money, at least not in the get-go. Maybe you get it up and running, you show people what you're doing, and they're like, okay, I'll open my wallet. I'll write a check for that. Okay? In the beginning, you might need one dedicated staff and a few people helping out. This should not be that hard. All right? The fact that it's not happening, again, tells me you either have, the right attitude and, you mean well, but we're not hearing anything about it. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks ago. It's not okay. The other thing, again, if it's somebody trying to stand in the way, if he's getting pushback from, say, Chuck Schumer, and I don't have any inside information saying that's the case. I'm just looking at the potential reasons for why this isn't happening. And if it's am guessing that it's not happening. The shadow cabinet idea, people's cabinet, is not happening for whatever the reason. Same reasons that we aren't having the daily briefings as we've laid out and everybody endorses and can be done, could have been started months ago. Makes me think it's one or two people, a couple people with egos. They're threatened. Something's happening. So if that's what it is, I thought that Pete Buttigieg would have been ready to get on a plane and come back to DC and start doing these briefings. He's announced he's not running for the Senate in Michigan. So he would be willing to do this. I firmly believe that, but he can't say anything about it because you know what? No one's made the call. Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they haven't made the call. So, Mayor Pete has to kind of be quiet. But Ken Martin is a different story. Yes, he was put in this job by the state parties, the different DNC members, I should say, around the country. And if he's thinking, well, if he's getting pushback, maybe in a roundabout way, again, maybe whoever is standing in his way goes to the big donors and they make a call to him. I want to give him some advice. Don't listen to them. And here's why. You are the one person right now who probably is in a position to do something and be effective in fighting Trump. So do it. Do it. Don't ask permission, ask forgiveness. You've all heard that saying. I want Ken Martin, chairman of the DNC, to just push forward. Here's the thing. When it starts working and maybe the small donor base really grows because Democrats and independents, anybody who wants to get rid of MAGA and Trump and wants to save this country, they're all going to start opening their wallets and you're going to get a huge small dollar donor base. And I think that's who Ken Martin should be playing to, not the big donors. There might be some others that think, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But, for people that think big money controls too much, guess what? The big money will come. I'm saying do this and the small dollar donor base will grow, I think, exponentially because people will be like, finally, somebody's doing something. Because right now, you see the post on social media, people saying, I'm closing my wallet until I see Democrats do something with teeth in it. So that's my message to Chairman Ken Martin. Push forward. Do it anyway. Do it anyway. And again, people who've run campaigns know that you have to do that all the time. There's always local people go, we do politics differently around here. It's like, well, no, you don't. It's pretty much all the same basic principles. And sometimes you have to come in from the outside and do the right thing. And then in the end, everybody acts like everybody's happy and you welcome them with open arms and you pretend that they've always been on the bandwagon. But don't get them on the bandwagon first because they're not. They're not doing it. So what you need to know is that people understand that there's something very, very wrong in the Democratic Party with the leadership. So I think it's probably Chuck Schumer. I could be wrong, but I think that's probably the main thing, plus some 2028 presidential hopefuls who are afraid of who might be behind that lectern, because whoever's behind that lectern as this as the daily briefer, it'd be just call them special advisor. They aren't a press secretary. They'd be a super staffer with their own staff. They would be in on top leadership communications strategy meetings, giving advice. Pete Buttigieg could certainly do that. And then guess what? Things are going to start happening. And for DNC Chairman Ken Martin, if you start doing something like this and your small dollar donor base grows because you've got regular people all over the country who are so happy that somebody is finally doing something, your big donors will come back. And you got to trust me on this. And yes, I have done this in congressional races where everybody has their way of doing things. But at some point, if I'm the outsider coming in, I had to be the bad guy. And people like, who is she coming in? Do it anyway. We would spend a lot of time trying to get party faithful on our side. And if they're not, they're not. People like their own little power bases in local campaigns and in congressional campaigns. You have to do it without them in the beginning. They will, if you build it, they will come. But you don't need big donors to do this, and you don't need their permission. So don't ask permission, ask forgiveness, although I don't think there'll be anything to ask for forgiveness for, because I think that you got to get, now that you've gone forward and you said that there's going to be this people's cabinet of experts, you need to start doing it. You can start small and you can build, but you need to start doing something and you need to do it now. And I hope you'll take my advice.